Greetings, everybody. My name is Tyrone Brooks with Major League Baseball. I oversee what's called the MLB Diversity Pipeline Program. Just excited to be here. Part of what just to give a little bit of context for this panel and also for just our program in general, over the last 9 years, we've had a partnership working closely with SABR to get candidates, one, getting a chance to get in front of people here at the conference, getting a chance to meet different executives, but also just trying to help them to understand further what they're going to need as far as their skill development and also just taking those next steps to break into the industry. So this has been a very beneficial opportunity for us over these last 9 years to do this. It's funny, our very first year, we had 12 people that were here in that first group. We had six men and 6 women. And now it's grown to the point of having, this year we had just under 40 individuals that are here. I just want to acknowledge them. They did a great job this whole entire week. Just want to acknowledge, if y'all could just stand up real quickly. Appreciate it. During the course of this week, we were doing a lot of ripping and running on the freeways here and throughout here in Phoenix, visiting with 11 teams in person. And it was a great opportunity for them to connect with so many different executives with the different teams and ask really pertinent questions about how to build a career, how to start a career within this industry. And also thanks to so many speakers here as well from that also took time after they finished sessions here to also speak to our group throughout. So a number of you are here in the audience. Again, thank you again for that as well. Just a couple things quickly as well. Regarding the Diversity Pipeline Program, we've been around since 2016 when this program was first started by MLB and Commissioner Manfred having the vision to want to create this. And that's when I came aboard with MLB after being on the team side for 20 years. For me, personally, my first opportunity to get into the game was thanks to Hank Aaron, him and Stan Kasten, and also Ruby Lucas, who was the widow of Bill Lucas, who was technically the first Black general manager. They opened up an opportunity for me and so many others to get into baseball with the Braves back during that time in the mid-90s. And for me, that's why I do the work that I do now, is wanting to help people see them have success in this industry. And also with that, the group that we have here and then so many others, and the program's been involved in over 700 plus hires since we started. And it's been a great way to get folks into our game. And that's how we see eventual change, having future GMs, future assistant GMs, future directors come into our game. It has to happen organically coming into our game. We also, thanks to SABR, and I truly want to thank them for being great partners. Thanks to Scott Bush. Please give him a round of applause, please. And also, a lot of his staff as well, with Scott Carter and also Jessica Smith as well for doing so much. Thanks to SABR, this year we have over 300 individuals who've gotten access to this conference, which is individuals that are obviously candidates trying to break in, but also trying to continue to educate our personnel with different major league clubs as well, who are looking to grow and expand their skill sets. But as part of our journey with our visits that we do here in Phoenix, and talking to Scott, we wanted to do something here with this panel, have a chance to really open it up for individuals here to have those opportunities to ask pertinent questions about breaking into the industry, talking to people here that have a lot of knowledge that they can share about their own experiences as well. And that's why this session is taking place and having a chance to do it here on this platform for this group. So again, thank you to the Milwaukee Brewers for allowing us to do this and be a part of this. And they all have obviously very busy schedules during this baseball season and spring training. So really excited for them to do this and provide an opportunity, provide a platform. This is going to be a lot of opportunity for individuals to ask questions. So this thing will be going around, I know, a lot. So that's where you can have questions that you may have for this group here coming up. So just again, it's one, thank you to SABR for being great partners. Also, thanks to those that are watching on Zoom. Good to see you all. And also, we also have, with our group, we have 11 more visits virtually with teams throughout the league that are actually, 8 more. We have 3 already before the conference, and we have 8 more coming this week. So it's just been a really exciting time for this group. For those that may be thinking about next year, to be a part of this platform. You can stay connected with us. If you look at on our MLB site, mlb.com/careers, you'll see information for the diversity pipeline program there. And also, shameless plug, I'm the founder of the Baseball Industry Network. For those that may not have joined us, we have over 47,000 members in it. It's another great resource to connect with people. And take a look on LinkedIn, you'll see that. And also feel free to connect with me on there as well. So again, I'll let the Milwaukee Brewers take over. I've done my part. Again, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Enjoy. Let the Brewers go ahead and get started.
Hey everyone, I'm Eric Babitz. I'm the Director of Player Acquisition at the Brewers. My role in our group focuses on holistic player analysis, trying to provide subjective evaluation that can help complement the objective data and information that we anchor to in decision making. Some of our work might be vetting a player of interest that comes up in a trade conversation, and then a lot of our work is also on surfacing, off the radar players, lower level prospects to ask for if we have the opportunity to do so. My background, previously I worked in the general baseball ops group, so half player eval and then half rules, contracts, CBA, negotiations, some salary arbitration work. Had a couple internships before the Brewers when I was in college with Baltimore and Philly in baseball ops. Went to school at University of Pennsylvania. Tried to get as involved in baseball research as possible when I was there. That's kind of the quick background and current role. Happy to answer any questions or discuss anything else as we get going here. But thanks everyone for having me.
That was an extremely long intro that I'm really sorry to have to follow, but I will do my best. So I am Megan Stewart. For those of you that didn't hear me talk on Friday, I am the lead strategist of movement solutions for the Milwaukee Brewers. With that, I oversee our biomechanics initiatives at the major league level, across the minor league affiliates, and then at our Arizona and Dominican complexes. My background is in sports biomechanics, applied science, pre-medicine. I have my PhD in health and human performance with a specialization in sports biomechanics. I went to all SEC schools for undergrad. I do a lot of work across the acquisition space as well as player development. And I think we somewhat touched on like rehabilitation and injury aspect on Friday as well.
Hi, I'm Phil Hauser. I've been with the Brewers for 7 years. This is my 7th season. My role is I'm part of the systems team, so we collect data from a lot of different people, including MLB, and we build a site to serve it up to all the staff at the Brewers. My background is primarily data and systems. I've spent about 30 years working in data and systems. I think what got me into baseball was I helped start a baseball academy in the Milwaukee area. So I had a high use of technology, which kind of opened the door for me.
Quick. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming out. I'm Andrew Fox. I'm the Vice President of Baseball Research and Development with the Brewers. This will be my 9th season with the team coming up. I'm originally from Toronto, so representing our Canadian contingent up here. I went to Queen's University for engineering physics, and then did my master's and PhD at Carnegie Mellon University, working on some autonomous vehicle algorithms. Joined the Brewers in 2017 in the R&D department and have held various roles in there since. Right now, helping to oversee the department, working with all our analysts in basically all across the baseball operations in various areas and trying to set priorities in the different spaces.
I'm not sure which mic I should use this one. Thanks, everybody. I'm Dan Turkenkopf. I'm the VP of Baseball Strategy and Innovation. Been in baseball 12 years now. Started with the Rays as a developer, then moved to the Brewers where I ran R&D for a while until passing it on to Andrew. The work I do now is kind of looking for our kind of competitive advantages. How do we stay ahead of the game? And a lot of new innovation. My background before baseball was a lot of work in tech, large companies like IBM down to small startups, and then did a lot of writing on the public side. I graduated from Penn with math and business degrees, and then worked in tech for a while until I got into baseball.
Hey everyone, I'm Everett Johnson. This is my 4th season as a full-time member of the R&D group. I interned with the Brewers in college and then ran it back and interned again after I graduated, and then earned a full-time role at the end of the 2021 season. I've mainly been working on major league strategy and player development projects and oversee our R&D associate program.
Hello, good morning. My name is Maggie Noffke. I am manager of baseball application development for the Brewers. And so my role is primarily to help oversee the software engineering team and make sure everyone on the team has what they need to do their jobs for our website that we build at Phil referenced. My background is not in tech. I actually got my undergrad in communications. And so from UW-Madison, University of Wisconsin-Madison, I should say, no baseball team there. So unfortunately didn't have a chance to work in baseball back then, but had kind of a quarter life crisis and decided I needed something a little more interesting. So decided to get into tech. So I went back to school, got a degree, an associate's degree in web development, and was able to do that supported at the place I was working at the time. And so started learning how to build websites. And so worked on our online banking platform for a local financial institution.
Hey everyone, my name is Daniel O. I'm one of the senior software engineers in the baseball systems team under Maggie. This will be my 3rd full season with the team, and in my role, I'm mostly focusing on creating tools and features targeted for the player development department.
Are we starting on questions? Okay. Hello, guys. My name is Delaney. I'm here with the diversity pipeline with Tyrone. So I've met, I think, a couple of you before. My question kind of goes more for Eric, but I think anyone could really answer this. I'm a statistics and economics double major. So with that, there's a lot of different options for post-grad. My dad and I have talking about maybe going to law school, maybe getting an MBA, maybe doing something else along those lines. What would you guys recommend for someone who might be in my position, or honestly any of us here, for post-grad opportunities? What would you suggest?
So I'm probably not the best person on the panel for post-grad, but there's a lot of people with a lot of degrees on the panel that might have some extra insights there. But I think it really depends on what you want to do. I think in my role, I kind of started as like a generalist in baseball ops. I tried to be involved a little bit on player analysis, a little bit on rules and admin, enough technical data stuff to keep me dangerous, but not coding day to day. And that was kind of my approach. And since I tried to emphasize breadth, and versatility, as much as I could, I didn't really, there wasn't much value for someone like me to go really deep and get a graduate degree and specialize in something. But if you want to do something more technical, and especially with the current quality of candidates that we have, especially in technical spaces, R&D systems, wherever it is, then yeah, the extra training and academic background could be helpful. So it really depends on what your goals are, but I'm sure that a couple people might have some grad school ideas down the line here.
I feel like I'm getting stared at for that one. I think I'd echo what Eric said. It really depends on what you want to do after. I mean, something like law school versus a engineering firm or something, or stats, they take you in 2 completely different directions, which they could converge to a single outcome in the end. But I think the answer really depends on what you want to be doing after that.
Gotcha. So yeah, I guess I do want to go more into baseball ops. So I guess that's why I asked you specifically about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think law school has value on that front, but you're increasingly seeing a lot of people in that space who didn't go to law school. If you want to be an agent, It's probably a little bit more, directly necessary than on the general baseball ops side, but like there's a lot of people doing, CBA rules, admin, salary arbitration work on the club side now who don't have law degrees. The ones who do have law degrees, like they are definitely in those areas. But it's, I think I think in general, my advice on this to people who want to work in baseball is like, I wouldn't recommend getting a degree in any field just because you want to work in baseball. It has to be something that you're interested enough in where you would want to work in that field if you ended up outside of baseball. So if you wouldn't have interest in law school, except that you think it would help you get into baseball, I probably wouldn't recommend it. If you would have interest in going to law school in general, then you can certainly leverage that in baseball, but there's ways around it. I think, the CBA is not the law. You're not going to learn about, the baseball CBA in law school. Those skills are going to be transferable for sure. But, if you can become an expert on contracts, transaction rules, like things like that, that's going to really separate you from other job seekers. Like no job seeker that we interview ever really has much background information on that side of things. So you can really separate yourself. You can just Google the CBA and read it, or read the, the rules cheat sheets that are on Trade Rumors or other sites like that. And that can really help separate you, even just without any further formal academic training.
Gotcha. Thank you. Okay, I can actually throw it that far.
Hi, thank you. For the first time, I guess, Maggie, you mentioned the Dominican Republic, and if you could expand on any opportunities or anything that is going on out there when it comes to data analytics.
Yeah, I think that in general, we're trying to, and across baseball, you're trying to make the Dominican Republic as close to the Arizona complex or the Florida complex that a team has. So the tooling that you provide to those players, you want to make it as consistent to the players that are in the Dominican so that when they come over, they see the same applications, they see the same information from their coaches so that they're already kind of speaking the same language. The transition is already hard enough for them coming to a different country, speaking a different language, learning English classes, all of that. So the easier that we can be on the data side and make both the coaches and the players familiar with it, I think is the way that at least we're trying to go.
Excellent, because I've seen opportunities looking for jobs, and you can see that there's opportunities in the Dominican Republic. Do you know if you need to be fluent in Spanish or anything like that?
It's a great question. Personally, from what I know internally here, you don't have to be fluent in Spanish, but a lot of people learn Spanish while they're there just because they're immersed in it. So they come back a lot more fluent than they are.
Oh, thanks again for hosting this, guys. Liam, my question was, baseball is a very hyper-competitive industry. Every team is kind of doing their own thing. And from a research standpoint, what do you think the right balance is between kind of blocking out all the outside noise, working on your own projects versus keeping your ear to the ground, seeing what other people are doing and trying to emulate that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a mix. I think we're trying to beat other teams, for instance, trying to come up with better metric, more informative tools, et cetera. But I think it would be extremely naive to think that we hold the secret to all the knowledge out there, and that we can just beat everyone with our own internal ideas. We get a lot of our best ideas from seeing other things that are out there, often stuff produced by people in this room. And we're looking at that and seeing how can we apply that? How can we tweak it? How can we extract parts of it, to try and figure out what we can get the most out of for our purposes.
Thanks.
All right, so I had a question about the catching lab that you guys kind of have and how you're able to sort of change a slugging catcher who has awful framing into this all-star incredible catcher. So in terms of a process, I mean, like I'm just curious how you guys are I'm very curious about your process, and is it more of an analytical thing, or is it more of a mechanical one? So.
Well, I guess first of all, we can't really speak to the existence of a catcher lab or not. But in terms of kind of the success we've had over getting guys good at framing, honestly, really, it's much more a player development side than anything else. We obviously try to give them the tools and the information to help to help figure it out, but it's the coaching staff and really the players who are putting in the effort, understanding it, and really, trying to get better at it. I do think one of the things that's been really impressive over that in the last decade or so is that showing that it's something that is trainable. But the methodology for it and how they've been able to do it is very much on the coaching staff and the players.
I just jump in there really quick. I think as it pertains to like the topic of this panel, I think it's really cool that like the same skill set that allows an organization to help a catcher get better at framing can help a job seeker get into the industry. It's like the ability to communicate technical information, things that are valuable, maybe that you've done research on, and be able to communicate that to a non-technical audience. And so, if to do it with feel, and to a like, you might be in a room full of like traditional, conventional scouts or baseball lifers, and trying to sell something that comes directly from like something very academic and analytical, and that skill set is just transferable across basically any department in baseball. And it's also, that's how you do well in an interview. That's how you make the work product that you attach to your resume stand out. So there's just a lot of parallels there.
Thank you guys so much for doing this. So we've talked a lot during this conference about like public information versus what the teams have. How much more information do teams have than what's public? Like, does the public have like basically nothing compared to what you guys have gathered, or what's the difference?
We point at it so we can get it.
I do think the gap has probably widened over the last decade or so, because there's just a lot more tech that teams have started buying internally, whether for their own use or sharing through the various MLB networks that are set up that are not distributed publicly. Things like Baseball Savant and some of those that MLB runs through are good at sharing a lot of that information. But we're in a bit of a different situation than we were a few decades ago, where like the box score statistics were the things that were just available to everyone. Now there's just a lot more internal tech that's collecting data that is not being shared publicly.
Yeah, and as Gersh mentioned yesterday, teams are also trying to build up their own like proprietary data sets to differentiate what we have versus what other teams have.
Thank you guys for doing this. My name is Mario. Write for a Baseball Prospectus. I write about pitching, and I just had like a little question about kind of like how the logistics of it works. So since I'm from Spain, I kind of wanted to know like how much work is done like within the development side and the baseball ops side. How much work is done in site, and how much work is like done quote unquote remotely? Just because my situation and everything like that. Thank you guys.
I think depending on the role, it varies quite a bit. For the technical side, which I think most of us on the panel are, we've tried to get people into a central location, whether that be Milwaukee or the complex down here in Phoenix. I'm a little bit of an exception to it. I actually do work remotely. But we tend to have a couple other people who do that. But it's after they've spent some time in the front office to begin with. And then we have them go remote. Other roles are where you live is less important, but that's largely because you're actually on the road a lot during the season, either going to an affiliate or scouts, out scouting. So there are opportunities for people in not in those locations. We've just found it generally works better, and you kind of acclimate to working in baseball better by being on site before moving somewhere else.
Yeah, thank you. I imagine that.
Hello, thank you so much for fielding questions. One of the questions that I have is, in one of the presentations we heard from this weekend, something that stood out to me was they said asking good questions is better than having all the answers. And so as someone who's a math major who wants to go into research and development or just baseball in general, what would you recommend to someone who wants to diversify their portfolio, who didn't maybe get those internships or have any experience working in that type of analysis before? So what recommendations did you make to build that portfolio?
I think my first recommendation is do something, like anything. Doesn't even have to be baseball related, doesn't have to be sports related. Do some sort of analysis, have it be on your own, look for an internship with a lab or some company over the time. I think there's a lot of areas where you can pick up like the important research skills without necessarily having them be applicable to baseball. And those are extremely transferable. So find interesting problems, work with people who have their interesting problems and work with them on that. But I think do something that shows that, like, as you're applying to teams, you have experience in these areas and you have a portfolio of work that demonstrates your skill sets and some of these technical things and research, that you have the ability to ask some of these questions, but also find answers to them. And as I don't think it necessarily has to be baseball related.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd also recommend that you do something that you're passionate about, because research can be pretty dry and you have to try a lot of different approaches. So I think someone said that yesterday, but yeah, do something you're interested in.
All right. This is actually a plug, but it's a relevant one considering all of the questions. You guys probably know where I'm going. So for those of you who weren't here for my announcement for the SMT Data Challenge, it actually hits on the idea of taking quantitative knowledge and turning it into something that is communicated well. It hits on proprietary data that you wouldn't otherwise get access to because of the way it's been set up. And it's a great way to build a portfolio. So if you want to chat with me about it, there's a QR code and registration's open. It's open to students over 18 who are still going to be students in the fall. And Dan Turkenkopf has been a judge, so he is definitely familiar with it. But yes, so that's my non-question. Thank you.
Hi, I've been to the facility you opened in the Dominican Republic just after it opened, and it's quite impressive. And my question is, are there opportunities for Dominicans to get into the front office, et cetera, that you're aware of?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think the biggest thing is from the Dominican group, I mean, we've got a good set of scouts down there, and we have a good set of coaches and staff down there that work and have been down there for quite a while. There are people that go through that pipeline that move in stateside. So yes.
Thank you guys for answering questions. My name's Liam, and I was wondering, what's the best career advice you've ever received?
I guess I'll start. So I've got probably the most career experience here. I mean, the biggest thing is do something you want to do. I mean, it's the same as the research answer, right? It's what are you passionate about? What do you want to do? I spent a lot of time working outside of baseball, and yeah, I made decent money, but I didn't really enjoy what I was doing. And, going to work could be a grind. I mean, working in baseball now, I've loved it. I loved it before I came here, and work is not a grind. I can log in at midnight and I won't care. It's fun. So the biggest thing is just do something you want.
For me, when I first started getting into tech, I had a really strong mentor in my manager, and I was really overwhelmed. It was a lot of stuff I'd never seen before. I definitely dealt with imposter syndrome, and she just told me, don't be overwhelmed by the amount you don't know. And it sounds so simple, but be excited by how much you don't know and how much you can learn and how much opportunity there is by what's out there. I really took that to heart. It really helped me.
Hi, my name is Jeff. Thank you guys for doing this. It seems like it's like pretty important to have knowledge amongst all departments, like even like no matter what your role is. So I guess like my question is just if you're like interviewing for like a software engineering role or like a baseball ops role, how would you go about like showcasing that you have knowledge that's applicable to like all different departments?
Question is like, how do you showcase what you've done? Or oh, sure. Well, like I will look at someone's GitHub and I will look to see what they've produced, whether it's in school or whether it's through an internship or something like that, that they can share publicly. We also definitely try to, through the interview process, determine what type of engineer that person might be. So like, for example, I really like to see somebody, to my previous point, who can demonstrate how much they like to learn and how much, what they have learned through whatever particular project. So I'll say, oh, you know, I saw this on your GitHub, and we have seen some really cool baseball examples, but I've seen a lot of cool non-baseball examples as well. And if they can really articulate what they got out of that experience, that really helps me understand their approach to software engineering.
Yeah, I've done some hiring too for us, and I mean, it's not about showing that you know player development. It's more about, like Maggie said, do you have a GitHub we can look at and see what you've done? Do you have good communication skills? Pretty simple.
I'll just add to that, that when you interview, you normally interview with a wide variety of individuals across different spaces. So when I interviewed, I currently sit in the player development department, but at the time I wasn't. And I interviewed with our director of player development, our VP of player development, a bunch of different coaching staff, as well as R&D staff and like baseball system staff.
Yeah, that's a really, I'll be real quick. That's a really good point. When we hire in systems, we do the same thing, right? We bring in R&D, we bring in player dev, et cetera. So it's communication skills.
I think something that can help separate you two is like, even if you've never worked in baseball before, if you can show that you can like, that you think about and talk about the game in a way that aligns with the way that people who are in the industry do, that can demonstrate some of that baseball feel and organizational fit that an interviewer is going to be looking for. Just like the little nuanced things, like there's a difference between saying that a major league hitter is a bad hitter and calling them a below average major league hitter. There's a huge difference in like the feel that comes off between those two things. And just, I think you can train that by reading, you know, the sites that people in the industry are reading. And then also, you know, like Mark Feinstein has a podcast series from a couple of years ago. He interviewed probably dozens of front office executives. Like, just listen to that. Like, how do people who are in the game communicate and talk about players and talk about the game and do so in a professional way? That's gonna really help you stand out. You don't have to know everything about player development, but can you present yourself in a way where you know, you come off as professional and someone who's like a baseball professional as opposed to a very enthusiastic fan. There's a huge difference there. And if you can present yourself that way, that weeds you out from a huge segment of the population of people who interview.
Yeah, and to Eric's point, just add, like, it's more about the love of baseball than the knowledge of baseball a lot of times, especially for people who are just starting out in their careers.
My question is for the panel, but I'd like you to try to answer it as individuals because it's going to relate to what it is you do for the Brewer organization at this time. So start at Daniel's end, please, and work your way to Eric. what question would you like answered? Let's hopefully by this June, if you could make it happen, what would you like to know a better answer to so you could do your personal job better? What is it you don't know you wish you did know? I guess is what I'm asking about.
The question was, what do I not know that I want to know now?
Question.
What knowledge are you currently seeking in your position, you don't maybe not have yet, but you would like to have a better grasp of, for example?
Yeah, I think just part of our job is it's just, or as a software engineer in general, you're always asking questions, whether it's, how do I build a certain feature, or how do I get it perfectly right for the end users and what you're trying to build. So I think something I can always get better at is asking questions, and that's something you shouldn't be afraid of. I don't think there's anything I don't think a bad question exists. So yeah, don't be afraid to reach out and get a better if you're not 100% sure with what you're working on. Keep asking questions.
Good answer. I had time to think, and that's still it's a challenging, it's a thought-provoking question. For me, I'd say, especially with moving into leadership, and I had been a manager in my prior organization, but not getting too far away from the technology that the team is using, and being able to keep my technical skills up when you're not hands-on keyboard work every day in the tech stack, especially with the way things move so quickly in all types of software engineering areas.
Yeah, kind of like Maggie and taking on more leadership role. It's my job to help develop our associates to the best of their ability. And you can kind of break that down into like technical skills and personal development. I think we've done a really good job developing people technically. One of the challenges we face in R&D departments is a lot of people that like select for research are naturally introverted and probably need to develop their communication skills a little bit. And that's very challenging to like come up with an approach to, especially as we tend to be like quantitative in nature.
My answer is not going to sound very good compared to you guys, but in my role, the knowing what the next big thing is and figuring that out, what the next big advantage is would be hugely valuable. So if you guys know what that is, let me know.
Also, one thing I struggle with sometimes is just like context switching between different things. And any day I could be having one meeting on something going on international, followed by a meeting on PD, followed by a meeting on pro acquisition. And I need to keep straight everything that's going on in all those various meetings while still remembering everything that's going on and how they piece together. So that's kind of always a bit of a struggle day to day. If anyone knows how to do that, let me know.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'm kind of in a new role in the last couple weeks, month, whatever it is. So I need to really take a look at everything our team has, every person on our team, and just see how to help the team grow, how to help the team get better, understand what we're trying to accomplish, and try to fill in any gaps that we might have. So it's trying to figure out what gaps we have, et cetera. So mine's just kind of learn.
Yeah, I think in my role, I have the unique and awesome opportunity to deal with almost every single department that we have in the organization. I communicate with our high performance staff, which incorporates our like medical staff, our strength and conditioning, our athletic training, rehabilitation, as well as our player development staff, as well as all of the baseball systems and R&D staff as well. And sometimes the conversations that you have with the coaches don't always align with things on a back end like data perspective. And so just continuing to develop the skill set to better bridge the gap between the different areas and be able to speak both sides of those languages so that you can cross communicate when necessary across the organization.
So in my role, and in our group's role, we do subjective player evaluation, and we blend in objective information as much as we can. But sometimes, if you're watching a Dominican Summer League player with 60 career plate appearances and no other affiliated sample size, you don't really have much to go off of other than video. Scouting is really, really hard. We get it wrong all the time. And so I think the specific question that I'm constantly trying to ask is, are there specific biases or things that we're doing where we're consistently fooling ourselves, or are there things like pattern recognition where we're convicted and then we second guess and we should know if you see that that actually there's signal there. And so just trying to, even when there's not much objective information to go off of, how can we think about these subjective error-prone processes in a way that helps us consistently make better bets? And trying to answer questions like that, I think would be helpful.
Hey guys, I'm Peter Cully. I'm excited to be part of this year's MLB Diversity Pipeline Program. So I'm sure I've had the chance to meet some of you before earlier this week. I know I really enjoyed getting to talk to you, Everett in particular. My question for you is, how much do you look at the status of other MLB teams, particularly in your division, when deciding when to make a run for it and go and try and get into the playoffs?
Peter, that was it was great getting to know you earlier too. I think every team probably looks at them to some degree and has an idea going into the season, and naturally based on injuries and the performance of the players that you have, you need to adapt to that. But where other teams stand is definitely relevant context.
Thank you for your valuable talk. I'm Koji, and I work as an analyst for Rakuten Eagles in Japanese professional baseball. My question is about the division of roles between biomechanists, and data scientists in MLB. Are biomechanics and data scientists clearly distinguished or not? If they are distinguished, do they collaborate on projects together? Thank you.
I think the short answer is yes. There's a lot of collaboration going on between areas. I think if I understood your question correctly, do they have a background in those specific spaces? And then how do they collaborate or work together? So for us in particular, we have backgrounds in biomechanics, we have backgrounds in engineering and software, and we work together very consistently across every single project that we do, mostly because if you aren't working together, you're not going to be able to actually answer the question at hand, just because you need all the different skill sets and specialties to be able to put a well thought out product in front of the stakeholder, whoever that stakeholder might be. So for us specifically, we all work together.
Hi, thanks for fielding questions from us and being here. I'm Rebecca. My question is, it may be a little vague, but what balance for someone looking to work in sports, what balance should you strike between being a generalist, like jack of all trades, or getting really into being an expert into sort of one field or one skill?
I mean, to me, it depends on what role you're trying to get, right? If you want a role on that Eric can speak to, I'll let him speak to it, right? I don't want to say what he would look for. I mean, if you're looking for software data engineering as an example, software data engineering, right? Like you should be specific in that. It's good to have some baseball knowledge, but you need to be a good software or data engineer.
I think you can also move around too. So like, oh, sorry, Turk. If you are more general going into a job, you can sometimes learn specific skill sets in that job experience to be able then be more skilled in a specific area. If you start a job in a more specific area like biomechanics or software or data engineering, sometimes then you can become more general if you want to. So it's really just dependent on like how you want to start your career, and then you have leeway depending on where you're at.
It's kind of different levels to it too. I mean, Phil was talking about being, if you do software and data, be specialized in software and data, but you could actually be even more specialized in those areas. And like, could be computer vision, could be a focus, and there's roles, there's opportunities for people who are very deep there. I think probably in general, just some of the communication things we've talked about being, T-shaped or U-shaped, where you have depth or breadth across areas does help, even if you do end up going deep in certain ones.
Hi, thank you for being here. My name is Alex. I wanted to ask, like, for each of you, how was your performance evaluated as an employee with the Brewers?
Hopefully well. I'd say like it's not unlike other jobs. If you had jobs, every year you get together with your direct manager and set goals for yourself, and they set goals for you as well, and you collaborate on areas of growth opportunity. And for myself, if I can demonstrate that I have worked toward those goals, not necessarily achieve the goals, it really it's hard sometimes in a year time frame, but having something that you can demonstrate that you've progressed in those areas, I think is one way we evaluate employees and our people on our staff. So that goal setting is really, really important.
Hi, my name's Jeff. Could you go over a little bit about the communication between like the data analytics and the coaching staff, or the communication between that and the players? Because I just feel like there's a difference between data analytic language and coaching language.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we spend a lot of time talking with the coaches about these things and working with them closely to, like, if we're building up tools or information sheets or processes, we want their input in what can we develop so that they can best communicate the information to the players. Like if they don't understand it, or if it's difficult for them to use in some way, then we failed on our end in creating a good tool. So like we're constantly talking with them, having meetings, whatever it may be, to make sure that we have some shared understanding of what we're developing together. And we want their input as well on all these things, because they're the ones who actually have to go out and act on it. So they're telling us what they need.
One of the challenges we face in these R&D roles is we provide very broad coverage, like across a couple different verticals, where the coaches are like very in the weeds with the individual player. And we haven't heard a lot of the like previous conversations. So it's our job to give the coaches the information that they need, and then they know the player and what makes them tick, and can choose what from the information we provide, what to convey to the player.
That communication is pretty important, I assume.
Yeah, that's what differentiates organizations.
Hello, I have a very vague question, but hopefully I could get an answer from all. So I'm curious, what is your leadership style like, and how has it, like allowed you to do well in your role?
If I were to label it, I've done a lot of reading on servant leadership, and to basically, what does each person need to be successful in their job, and how can I help them be successful in that job? So that's providing feedback, that's making sure they have the tools they the actual software they need to do their software engineering. That's, it can be any number of things, but I'd say if you're interested in leadership, that's one vein that, to me it's a style that I think really helps people feel like they're contributing to the team that they're on and, hopefully feel really good about the job they're doing.
Hey, thanks, guys. For someone who maybe doesn't want to be, coding like in R or SQL every day, like for the rest of their life, what roles do you think exist, at least at the entry level, that's maybe more subjective, and how do you set yourself apart in those roles compared to the very, technical data roles?
I think I'm the least intelligent person on the panel who can help answer that, who doesn't really know how to code too much. I think, it's, if you don't have a hard technical skill that can help separate you, you have to separate yourself in a different way. And so there's a few things. I think, we get a ton of resumes. When you send in your resume, did you also attach like a player analysis that you did on your own, and was it good? I read fan graphs and try to write something that looks like that as like a starting point. Send that to, teams, ask for feedback. I think ask for advice, not a job, is a really good networking piece of advice, but you have to mean it. It can't be like strategic, like actually. And so, let's say you write like a sample player analysis on a player, you send it to someone with each team, ask for feedback, they give you feedback, you implement that feedback, you now have an excuse to follow up, reach back again, and also you got better at what you're trying to do. So that's like an example, layered into that. I think, this isn't a technical skill, but it's an important skill. Like your writing ability is really important, I think, in any industry or any field. But, if you're trying to write a subjective analysis on a player, or it doesn't have to be a player analysis, but on anything in the game, people are going to think that the content of what you're saying is better if you communicate it well. So that's important too. And then, I think it's just, there's a lot of different like specific roles and jobs that aren't hyper technical. There's affiliate internships on the tech ops side. There's, in our front office, we have internships on the international scouting side, the domestic scouting side, general baseball ops. And so I think it's just, do you have a work product? Are you getting better at that? Are you reading in industry? And are you demonstrating those kind of soft baseball skills? And then also like knowing some of the technical skills is really important, even if you're not doing it every day for the rest of your life, like you don't want to be doing, which I don't blame you on my end, but hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think being able to talk about data and how to approach some of the numbers that you're going to run into in the game is valuable, even if you're not building them yourself, for the roles that Eric's talking about.
And if you really don't want to do like SQL and R and Python, you could join the biomechanics world and code in Visual 3D. It's great. So just throwing that out there.
Hi, my name is Saka. You guys mentioned about like the communication skill, like soft skill. So my question is like, is that skills like, do you guys feel like come from like in nature, or like come from some specific like experience, or like do you guys like, or like you guys acquire that skills after you start work for the team, like, or like if do so, like, is there anything you guys already keep in your mind, like when you guys trying to get the like communication skill?
I mean, the answer is it kind of depends. To be honest, so I can say from like an engineering side, we'll definitely hire someone who's highly technical and not good at communication and work with them on communication. We'll also go the opposite way and hire someone who's extremely good at communication and maybe not as technical, because we can build up the technical skills. So it's not about what you have to offer on communication day one. It's more about what's the balance of the person you are and how we can update and add to you.
Too, like, it's often up to like your boss or senior leadership to help you communicate with people that you haven't communicated before, and you learn different people's styles in the org and how to talk with them. That's not something that you necessarily know coming in on day one, and hopefully we've built up an infrastructure to help anyone with that.
I think there's also one last thing, like there's a difference between like, you know, having great communication skills, like, are you a great public speaker? Are you a great writer? That's one lane, but then the other lane is like, do you have like a sense of like humility, curiosity, and feel when you communicate with people? And that, I think that's important regardless. And that's, you know, if you can present yourself that way, you know, the rest will come. But, you know, when you're a job seeker or you're in a technical field and you're speaking with someone who has, you know, playing experience or something, like going into that with, you know, what can I learn from them, as opposed to I have all the answers because I did this research and I'm going to tell them how to do something like that. You know, that difference in approach, as long as you have that, like, be a good person type of mindset when you go into communications, your exact communication style or expertise is a lot less important, and can be developed and refined later for whatever your role is.
Hi, thanks for coming. I had a question about some weather data. So riffing on like personal passions, I'm into meteorological data, but also baseball. So I was wondering, without proprietary, you know, insight across baseball, is weather being integrated into models?
Yes.
Okay. They've talked about this some, I think, in some of the StatCast articles with Weather Applied Metrics being a company that has been basically tracking essentially wind currents, weather in all the parks. And then teams are, you know, incorporating that information into some of the data. But I think it's published on MLB.com, so you can go dig into that some more there.
Cool. And real quick, separate, non-technical. It's great to see all the young, bright-eyed people here with a ton of energy, but also as a practicing software engineer in my career, I'm kind of curious, throughout the baseball industry, how is burnout for you all compared to average, maybe?
I think you have to really love it to work in baseball. The season is long, and it's not just the baseball season, right? Like, you work 365 days a year. Spring training is long days, a lot of people. It's also really fun. So I often say that the baseball season is like 3 separate seasons. You have spring training, you have in season, and then you have the season without games. And all of them kind of have different work hours, work-life balance schedules. And in my opinion, like personally, the season without games is worth it for the rest of the season. But I think you have to really love what you're doing, kind of going back to like having a passion for your job. I have heard that it can take a toll on you if you're not, you know, ready for it.
Related, also, I think of the impact on family. It is hard on families a lot of times because of how much we're working, and, you know, they make sure that it is something that is appreciated, that there is that kind of support and stability, because it can be a pretty big impact on the rest of the family.
Dan and Andrew didn't hit on this, but I think I've only been in the industry for 5 years, but I'm very grateful that they've set a precedent where people can take time off, and you kind of need the executives to do that. There's a great piece on the Cleveland GM, Chris Antonetti, took a vacation during the season, and that sort of thing can help like reduce the burnout, I guess, in this industry.
Yeah, to echo kind of whatever it was saying, knowing your own triggers for when you're starting to feel burnout is really important. And that's something for me. I'm new to the Brewers since my 2nd season, but I've been in the industry for a while. And so if you can say, oh boy, I'm snapping in a meeting when I really shouldn't be, there's no reason to, and you can say, okay, I need to take a beat. Knowing that for yourself can really help you communicate that then to the leadership and say, well, I do need a week off or a longer break or something like that.
We got time for one last question.
Hi, my name is Gabe Levy. As we all know, the Brewers have had a sustained culture of success over the last few seasons, and I just have a question for you all. What are the Brewers doing differently than other organizations that is leading to that culture of success?
I don't know that we know. Thank you for noticing. I think we've had really good continuity across the organization while still bringing in new voices, which I think is really good. We all we know how to work together now. We know kind of we're all going in the same direction. This flows from David and Matt. David before he left and Matt now. But I think it's just they've done a great job of setting the direction for the organization, getting people who contribute to it, who want us to be successful and have really good ideas on how to do it. I mean, you can see from the people on the panel here, the people are really the best part about this job. Baseball is cool, but I get to work with people that I really like working with. And that's, that helps with the burnout question as well too. I'm happy where I am. And it makes it easy, makes it fun.
Let's all give it a round of applause for the Brewers. Out of respect for the Brewers and their time, I know that they have a spring breakout game to get to. They're at their place, so we want to make sure they can have a chance to exit, pretty quickly to get to your game. So again, thank you for taking so much time to do this and be here. Thank you.